I'm Anthony Wright, and I'm your co-host today on the Living Conversation with,
Adam Dietz. Welcome
and
back, everyone.
our guest is, our guests are the Sonoma State University Philosophy Club with President Collette and members Haley and Andrew. And before the break, we were talking about allowing the mind, the body to kind of settle. And it brought to mind, Adam, that you've got a story about uh, uh, how muddy water can be dealt with.
Mhm.
So, like if the mind was like a bucket of muddy water, talk more about that if you would.
So Eastern philosophy really is meant to help people experience the highest level, like we mentioned before, right? And it's okay. If you choose to practice and learn it, great. If not, then that's okay. They don't try to evangelize you. They just say, here's what we know the highest level is. You're welcome to go experience it for yourself. Yeah. The point is, there's one story in Laozi, Tao Te Ching, Taoist philosophy, uh, that Laozi says we should practice in order to merge our mind with Tao, the way. We should practice like a hand searching in muddy water. If your hand is searching in muddy water and you're trying to search, 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 grasp, 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 you just stir up more turbidity. The only way to have clarity come is to keep your hand still. You keep your hand still, the sediment in this muddy water will settle to the bottom, then clarity can come out. So we should practice our mind like this. If we can allow our mind to decrease desire, decrease thought, decrease attachment, it's like allowing the sediment of our mind to settle. When the sediment of our mind settles, then we can have clarity. When we have clarity, actually what comes forth from us, our deepest self is experience Tao of ourself. It can come out. We can see it, experience it. And this reminds me of what we were talking about before. To experience this, yes, maybe meditation, right?
Yeah.
But we can all just picture ourselves maybe having fewer thoughts, maybe calming down a little in whatever method helps. Now, my whole entire life, I never had anxiety. Not at all. I sympathize that people had anxiety, but my mother passed away. After my mother passed away 4 or 5 years ago, I started to have anxiety.
Uh-oh.
And I was so new, I never knew. And I've always been able to do Tai Chi, meditation, or running or something, take care of myself and have no problem. So I felt very confident. Oh, I can do it, no problem. But I had anxiety. And you all know anxiety is just it's not, it doesn't make any sense. It just comes and you can't get out of it. Hmm? So finally things came to a head and I had no tools for coping. I had to pull over on the side of the road and I thought, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I could be stranded in the middle of nowhere because I have anxiety about driving. Hmm?
Oh my.
So finally I just said, well, maybe I'm tired. I'll take a nap. But a lot of times when I take a nap, I actually start meditating a little bit. Just trying to get in touch with, like we're talking about before, get in touch with your awareness, get in touch with your mind, just watch your feelings go, move your awareness around. There's some meditation method called body scanning. But the point is, as soon as I close my eyes, I started meditating, my anxiety was cured forever.
Wow.
I hope forever. Please, I hope. I hope. Because now what I do is if I start to feel it a little bit, I can just close my eyes for 1 second, like a long blink, and return, almost like Anthony was saying, return to that thread of your heart. And
Okay.
then and then you realize, okay, that was all just a mirage, and my true self isn't here. Mm. So I thought I would share that story because it seemed to really be a personal story that has a lot, maybe you can understand and empathize with, and it seems to tie in a lot of things that we've been talking about today.
Yeah. So I also wanted to mention that when people have emotions, a lot of times, and I don't know how common it is for people to think about, well, what's that emotion doing for me? How is it taking care of me? So I would offer to you that the anxiety being about the future is trying to take care of you and keep you safe.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Um, and it, but it can tend to run away. Well, what about this? What about that? What about that? And to try on all these different scenarios. And um, I know that um, it's easy to get caught up in a loop like that. And um, one of the things that I wanted to mention, and then I see you've got something to offer, Haley. Um, my daughter has Down syndrome, and I know I've told this story in class, Colette. But the wisest thing she ever said to me was when she made an error, she'd go, "Oh, silly me," right? And so when I find myself getting caught up in the anxiety, I'll go, "Oh, wait, silly me, I got anxious." So, Haley, what did you have?
Well, one to that story, I really like that because I think personally I tend to be a lot harder on myself,
Oh
which
yeah,
is silly because I wouldn't be hard on a friend or colleague in the same way. So I think that silly me philosophy is very good going forward, right?
so loving. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's just
just I'm so grateful for
yeah,
her offering
very
that.
forgiving, very just like, hey. And I also want to go back because I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of creatives have anxiety. And I think that's because, at least like for myself, it's like, and I consider myself a poet, writer, artist, whatever, what have you. Um, it's like we're constantly thinking the what ifs and
Yeah.
the scenarios. And I think like biologically, that's supposed to make us be ready for like the next thing, right? And it's supposed to get us ready. But in today's world, that's not so necessary. And instead, it's just ruminating over problems that like probably aren't going to happen. And so if you funnel it to a creative side, that's when you get your stories. That's when you get like your
Mm.
big fantastical like stories. I know Collette likes fantasy a lot and like that's where you can really feed into that. But if you kind of go down the rabbit hole, that's where you can also get like spiraling and kind of losing control. And so I think it's really interesting how those two think the creativity, but also like the anxiety are connected in that way. And I'm actually not off topic, but I'm currently taking a class at Sonoma State, a death and dying class in the Hutchins
Oh,
program. And it's really interesting because, like personally, I get a lot of death anxiety, and a lot of that comes from the what ifs and the unknown, which I think a lot of anxiety is
right,
about
right.
the unknown. But like out of most things, that's not something that we can really ever know. And so it's been interesting taking this class and coming to terms with just like hearing other people's ideas and kind of just coming to a sense of trying to come to a sense of calm of not knowing, right? And I think that not knowing whether it's about after our life or just the rest of our life can be where the creativity is because if you're not set on a predetermined path or not set on a predetermined afterlife, what have you, et cetera, it allows for a lot of growth. It allows for a lot of opportunity where if you just thought, hey, this is where I'm going to end up,
Hmm.
you might be on a prescribed path with not a lot of room to change.
So, Andrew, you've been quiet here.
I have, well, yeah, because I haven't taken your philosophy classes here. I'm a physics major, so I transferred last year. I haven't gotten a chance. So some ways I can't relate. But death, I can riff off of the death stuff. So oh boy.
And there's
I
always Schrodinger's cat.
um yeah, I have spent a lot of time thinking about death stuff and stuff. I don't have the anxiety per se, but it's partly because I do spend a lot of time thinking about that. And I think about like what I actually want to do with my life. And I have like a list of things. I have many things I wish to accomplish. I have many
Okay.
things that I wish to do and such. Um, but to me, I think I it's hard to say I ever really had a fear of death. So maybe you can call it an anxiety of death. Um, but I've eliminated that through thinking about um who I am. Like what is my entire moral framework and why do I have the moral framework that I do? Not
Mhm.
just my feelings on morality, but like, okay, specifically, can I logic out my morality? I've done a lot of that stuff. And not just morality, but just personality. Uh, Especially personality. Maybe even more so. And because I have spent a lot of time self-internalizing that, I feel like I have a comfortability. Like if death was suddenly inevitable, right? Say the Peninsula in Russia gets another gigantic earthquake and it sends a tsunami our way and it comes inland, whatever. I I feel like I would be at peace. I feel like I would feel a lot of, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss out on so many things. And and I would probably have quite a wave of anxiety because honestly, last 5 years of my life and last 4 months, oh my God, the last 4 months have been in. Oh, but despite all that,
For a lot of
I
folks, yeah.
I would the idea that I can connect with who I truly am, that I feel like I still have the rest of my life, however the long that is, to keep doing that self-discovery, and I'm going to keep looking into that. Um, but I feel genuinely like I have a true strong sense of who I am, to the best of my ability to self-interrogate that. And I find a lot of comfort in that. And so the idea that um death may come for me soon, if it does, it doesn't scare me. I feel like I feel a deep sense of purpose just by understanding myself.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so in that sense, I feel like I'm mostly good. Like death is it yeah, there's problems. I don't want to die, but I feel okay. I feel like I'm okay with death.
And bringing it to a Buddhist thing that there's a Buddhist sutra called fundamental actualizing the fundamental point, and it starts out to study the Buddha way is to study the self, and I really appreciate and that Adam, do you recall what the Buddha said about studying the self?
Well, what's coming to mind more than that is that my dissertation was titled The Self-Cultivation and Personality of the Superior Person in Original Confucianism. So,
Oh, okay.
so that hits
Only,
home. As
yeah.
far as the Buddha,
Didn't he
there-
talk about that, you've got to study what's happening in as a human being to be able to then make a choice, right?
yeah, I always try to ground my Buddhist musings on Siddhartha himself when he first was
Yep.
alive.
Yep.
And I remember that he, discovered the middle way, which I think is always helpful to return to, and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. So if you look at the Eightfold Path, there's right action, right perception, right livelihood. It's all about orienting things in the right way. So when we're suffering, we're disoriented. That's the first noble truth. The reason why we suffer is because we're disoriented. So in this sense, that's where our sense of self comes in. Because if we're identifying the cause of this, right, the cause of this suffering, this disorientation is desire. That's a second noble truth. So when we orient and identify and chase desire, it is insatiable. Desire you always want more. You always want more. So if you identify with your wanting, then you want it, you don't have it, you're sad. You get it, you like it for a little while, then you're disappointed. So if you're identifying with your desire, you're always going to be disoriented. But the cure, the third noble truth, there's a cure. The fourth noble truth, the cure is to have a right orientation, right practice, right livelihood, right speech, this kind of thing. You can call them the eight rights in a lot of ways, right? So when you have this right orientation, then it's like a wheel. The desire is the outside of the wheel. You're spinning, 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 out of control, never ending. When you center yourself, you have a right orientation, then you are at the hub, the spoke of the wheel. then you can have peace. Then you do not have suffering. You feel centered. You can watch the desires pass through. Then you know you are not the desire. You know your awareness, like we're talking about all day, your awareness is now centered. You can move your awareness around. But the point is, you could even go let your awareness go into desire, but now you have a place to return. So you can see your desire from a higher level. You're not getting disoriented by it. Because it's like a wheel that's off balance when you're living on the outside of that desire. You return to balance by practicing the Eightfold Path.
Yeah, we have to return to balance right now by taking a short break. I'm Anthony Wright, and I'm your co-host on the Living Conversation with
Adam Dietz.
and our guests from the Sonoma State University Philosophy Club, our president Collette, and members Haley and Andrew. And how can people contact you, Collette?
Hi, so just the Instagram for the club is SSU Philosophy Club. Reach out anytime. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, and Adam.
Yeah, all my work is mostly funneled through Substack at the way between at substack.com. And you could, so all my links are there. We're on YouTube, Instagram, a bunch of other places. They're all there. And you could find them there. But also you could email me at deetzadam@gmail.com, Dietz Adam. And we'd love to have, I was mentioning before, we might have a little mailbag segment one time. We're getting some comments on YouTube
Oh,
and
good.
different places so we can share them on air one time.
Great. And I'm Anthony Wright, and my website is theonaut.com. It's theonaut.com. So there's a comment section there. So we'll be right back. So stay tuned.